Let's do a quick fire round. So
Uh-oh.
because you just popped up those full bonds up on screen.
Yeah.
So grab those two bonds again. So
Okay.
real quick, we'll do a quick fire round. Rattle off the pros to K-tip extensions.
Customizable, stay in longer. You can pop just a few on each side of each person of anybody's head, from thick to thin, more comfortable, 100% human Remy hair. I don't know what else to say. Your turn.
I'll add lightweight. The
Yeah.
customization is amazing. It's the individual pieces lets you place them where you need them without needing to borrow from other areas. You're never too wide. And when we keep mentioning customizing, meaning you can cut that bond shorter in addition to
Yeah.
splitting it in half or splitting it into thirds, you could keep that full bond and just trim it down and make it smaller. That's what we're referring to as customizing. So those are the pros. Okay, in all fairness, let's quick fire a couple of cons.
Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this bond. Boom. I just cut some of it off. It's a little crooked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just cut that corner right there. I Some people will go as far as cutting the corners off like this
Yeah,
to make them, because when they spread them, those corners can be a little messy. And I don't do that anymore. I used to do that. And some people will cut them down even smaller and have the teeniest,
that's what I do.
tiny little bond, and it still holds really well.
Yep.
So now some people will use the bonds. Where are they? Nice and I got them on my. I'm thinking of fall between my keys of my keyboard. So some people use them whole and thick like this, especially in other countries. I notice a lot in Brazil and in the European area. They just use the big, thick whole bond. They take the tool that I've dropped on the ground here and heat that bond up. I mean, it'll fit in there barely, but that's one of the tricks that we've learned here in the US is that if we trim this bond a little shorter, it fits in this tool just a little bit better. Then when it spreads, it's still in the tool. And through tests of just doing them, cutting the bonds down shorter are lighter, more healthy, more invisible, more comfortable, stay in just as long as the big, thick bonds. Why would you do them big and thick and ugly and more noticeable if they work just as well? Now, when I cut them as short as that last one I showed you, like you say you do, I did find those didn't stay in quite as long as a tiny bit more. So I've got my little sweet spot that works really good
Okay.
for me. And I had two customers come in a row and say a bunch of extensions fell out, and I said, "What's a bunch?" They came in, I counted, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it was like 30 out of 150. That was too many." And I think it's because I started cutting them a little too short. So I gave two girls.
There's I could tell you on the she hair extensions, there's a square, there's that logo in the middle of the bond. You can
Yeah.
I cut them down all the way down to that bottom line closest to the
Oh
hair,
yeah.
and that
I see
gives
the
me
logo
still
now that
enough
you're
hair
talking
attached
about.
to the bond. Yeah, they're that little logo, and that gives me still enough hair attached to the bond, and it's still enough material for me to manipulate it to do what I need to do with it. So those are all the
Okay.
good stuff about them. Now let's throw a couple of, for fairness, what are some of the cons about
You're
K-tip or
breaking
about
up. We
keratin
got to
bonds?
go. I'm just kidding. Cons. Takes longer. It does take longer to do.
The
For
application
most,
process you're talking about.
what's that?
You're talking about takes longer the application process.
Yeah, and I would say that's all K-tips. That's not just she hair. Uh, the flat tip machine, I do think makes it a little easier and faster than most K-tip tools that have the rounded and the ball that pushes, and the bond is heated up in a curve, and then you're trying to push it back flat or rounded. So overall, takes longer to put in no matter whose K-tips you're using. The hair is not reusable. It's generally more expensive. Most people don't sell K-tips that are much or that are of very low quality because it takes a little effort to put the keratin on the tip to make it a keratin tip or K-tip. So most K-tips are a better quality than most other types of extensions. But then even in that higher end, you're going to have She Hair, great lengths, maybe one or two other companies that are up there at the top. And I say don't waste your time with the low end ones. But takes longer, not reusable, takes longer to put in and longer to take out, and cost a little bit more.
What
That's
I'll
the
add to that is there's
helps.
also a what I'll call a stop gate. There's a certain skill set and there's a
Oh
certain
yeah,
mentality, there's a certain level of patience and consistency that you have to have when you're applying them.